Now here at the front, it's actually quite difficult to tell the difference between this facelifted 6th generation model and the brand new 7th generation Fiesta, but I'll try and take you to it. This grille is basically the same, but this lower one on the new one's a little bit more frowny, and then these lights would come with a daytime running light LED around the edge, and they're a slightly different shape, but not significantly, and where the would-be fog lights are, they sort of come up the side more and make a little false wheel intake vent. But yeah, broadly pretty much the same. So if you stick a private plate on this, you'd have to be a car person to know the difference. And in terms of overall looks wise, it still looks as modern as the brand new one, because they didn't change it enough. So no one's going to look at it and go, oh God, look at that. Look at that. What is it? I can't do maths. 7-year-old car going by. Whoa, they must be not care about how they car. Here at the side, it's another case of more of the same. I mean, you'd be hard pressed from the side profile to notice the difference between this and the new car. It's really just this here. You can't quite see the rear tail light on the side of the newer car. And probably they've changed the wheel styles or something, but I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you which wheels are from the new one and from this one. This one comes with steel wheels, which is the correct choice for nearly any car, although I would personally take the plastic covers off and give them a clean. In terms of sidecar features, there's an indicator and a fuel filler. This is actually Ford's fast fuel system, where you don't get a fuel cap, you just get a series of little doors in there, which seems great and fine until you have to fill one from a jerry can, in which case you have to hope that the little funnel they include in the boot is still in the boot and you haven't lost it. Otherwise the fuel will just piss out down the side of the car, which isn't fun for anybody involved. Here at the back is where it's most obvious that this is the older 6th generation car. For a start, you'll see that this big bit of plastic that's meant to sort of make you think it's a diffuser, that's a different and slightly smaller shape on the new one, and it has a sort of crease around the bottom. But the main thing is these rear lights on the new one are sort of, instead of being vertically styled, they're horizontally styled to fit in with the rest of Ford's current model range. But yeah, overall, I mean, the new car just sort of looks like a heavy facelift rather than a proper revised model, and it does actually have new bits underneath, but on the outside it's like the G-Wagon all over again. They've gone, oh, there's only 3 bits of the old car that we've kept for the new car, but somehow it's identical. I feel like you spent a lot of money to not achieve anything. Let's dig into the inside. So we'll start here in the boot, which is a fairly bland space. There's no false floor going on really. Well, there is a sort of, there's this, but that's just covering the spare wheel, except it's not really a spare wheel. It's a spare wheel well full of a lot of polystyrene and then a small tyre inflation kit. But it does have the filler for the fuel, so that's handy. Then at the sides you have a couple of little Velcro straps, and a piece of elastic, some curry hooks on the side, and that's really it. It's just a big, well, it's a 290 litre box, basically. Not a lot going on there. So I'll just climb into the back seats for you. It's a simple procedure. There's a lever on the top of the seat, and it goes all the way forwards with just one button press, and then you can step through, and it's not too bad to get in, actually. I'll move this seat back though. That is all the way back. It probably would be slightly further forwards for most people, but I can just fit in the back like this. So even if you have the tallest of drivers, you will get an adult in behind them. There is a headrest here that I'll just, but that's okay. And actually, unlike a brand new Fiesta, I can sit up straight in this and my head isn't against the ceiling. So better marks there for this car. Not only does it have what seems like a bigger, more usable space in the boot, but somehow it has more space in the back seats. It's also worth noting at this point that obviously these seats will fold forwards to make the boot even bigger than it was, and they do split 60-40, but they don't go completely flat. Though you will increase your 290 litres to somewhere in the 900 litre range. Other features in the back seats, there are tiny little coat hooks that aren't really useful for anyone because they're not big enough, and then what would be called door bins if this had doors, but it doesn't, so they're just bins, I guess. But you would fit a mobile phone in them, for example, but they're not that big. But otherwise, it's pretty good. I can clearly see out of the windows. It feels relatively airy in here, and I would be happy on short to medium length journeys, and with a taller driver, even long ones. Let's move on to the front. So here we are in the front, and for anyone who's sat in a Ford of this age, they're all the same on the inside. They all have this weird center console business going on, and legend has it this center console was designed to look like a Motorola Razr. That was the style influence because when they first conceived it, that was an incredibly fashionable phone, and then they kept using the center console until 2017, by which time people hadn't even held a Razr who were driving cars. So that's probably one of the most dated parts of this vehicle, is this weird center bit, but all the other bits are fine. The dials look contemporary and a bit sporty, if that's what you're into. The steering wheel's good. There's lots of adjustment. Oh, get that all the way up there. Classic Ford rotary dial lights on that side. 2 stalks. Little audio controls on the steering wheel. They got rid of that brick that was behind the wheel they had in the previous gen models. A suspiciously long gear stick. It's a bit weird. It looks like it's from a van or something, and sort of feels like it as well. It's a bit too... You want a bit of a shorter one, because the rest of this car feels quite engaging and sporty, and then you've got this big wand. And then down here you've got your HVAC controls. It is just AC, it's not actually climate control. You've just got a red and a blue for hot and cold, and the world's largest controller for this. You can actually... It's a physical button, you can hear it doing things. Can you hear that? That's quite fun. Other storage spaces. You've got a glove box, of course, standard fare. Not that big enough for the owner's manual, but that's kind of it. You'd fit 2 of them in there, basically. So if you've got a book you're reading as the passenger, I don't know. There is a hidden storage compartment down here on this side of the wheel, but as I've discovered, it's a pain in the arse to try and open. So that's open now, and it's only really big enough for maybe your wallet if you want to conceal your wallet, or have your wallet handy if you're going through a drive-through, but then you'll be there at the drive-through sitting there like this. Oh, there we go. So depends on how much of a weirdo you want to appear. There is a little space here in front of the gear stick. There is no point in that space. It's not big enough for anything. Then you have a 12-volt socket, an aux in, and a USB. Wow! You charge 2 phones at once. 2 cup holders here, and then another cup holder, because this is not a model with a center console, so it just has another cup holder there. You also have large door bins in the pockets with a little cutout in them to put a water bottle in or something. So for a small car, quite good on storage. Shall we see how it drives?
So, what is this Ford Fiesta like to drive? Well, it's pretty good, actually. Let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. It is not a fast car. It's designed primarily to have a low insurance group and an economic running cost, so the engine prioritizes these things over acceleration and speed. With that being said, everything else about the car is kind of set up for fun. They know they're probably going to have younger drivers in them, and people who might be more interested in having a bit of fun in their car, and they've definitely catered towards that. I would say, in nearly every respect, this is as nice to drive as the new Fiesta, with 2 important flips. The braking is nicer. As I said in my review of the new Fiesta, the brakes are too aggressive for the car. You don't need that level of braking in a normal hatchback. It would be nicer if it was progressive. It is progressive in this car, but the clutch is a bit too high. In this video, the clutch was a bit too high. Now I don't know, because I haven't driven every Ford on the planet, even though it's starting to feel like I have. from the mid to late 2000s and early teens, that is. I don't know if that's where it's supposed to be, or this one has been serviced and now it has a high clutch or whatever, but it's worth noting that my second Ford Focus also had a high clutch. My little brother's Ford Focus has a high clutch. So, and these are cars that are mechanically sound, they just have a high adjusted clutch, more like one you'd expect to find in a Peugeot or a Citroen. So I don't know if that's, just had a string of bad luck with clutch adjustment or whatever, but the clutch in this car specifically felt quite high. The engagement was fine, it didn't slip or anything, but it just felt higher than it needed to be. I wanted it to be like halfway-ish up the travel and be a nice progressive ease in, and it was closer to the top and more instant, if that makes sense. Inside, compared to the new one, the seating position I actually felt maybe was slightly better. I felt like I could maybe get a little bit lower in the older Fiesta. In the new one, I do tend to feel, sat up quite high for the size of car. This one was a little bit better, but then everything you're touching while you're driving isn't as nice. The steering wheel isn't as nice to touch. The seat isn't as premium feeling. Even though these cars are very equivalently spec'd, really, in the real world, that's just the progression through the years, and what people expect from car interiors now is a much more tactile, comfortable place to be, and less just function, more form. But that being said, other than the fact that the interior isn't quite as pleasant as the newer one, I'm sure it's just as durable, if not more, because there's, less materials, or fewer materials, I should say. And the visibility is good. I mean, it's a Ford Fiesta. If you want to know what this Ford Fiesta is like, you go watch my other Ford Fiesta review, because, it's a brand new car, but they end up looking about the same. They end up with about the same glass houses, and they end up with very similar handling. Yes, the new one is higher performance, but other than the straight line speed, that old Fiesta is going to be as good to drive. Period. And I would say if you're looking for a cheap car that's enjoyable, Ford is always a great place to look, and I can definitely recommend this Fiesta as a fun, small car to drive. Probably better than just about anything else equivalent to it directly. That would be the point I would make, is out of any of the hatchbacks of that age that you might be looking to buy, as someone of around my age per se, and you're looking for a small, economical, but enjoyable car, Ford Fiesta. It just makes sense. It's just the right thing to do. Maybe go and make sure the clutch is alright, because I don't know if this one had an odd clutch or that's how they all are. But yeah, otherwise, small, fun hatchback. It's got to be a Ford Fiesta. Okay, to the conclusion.
So then, the Mark 6 Ford Fiesta, is it as good as a new one? Or, more appropriately, would I have it instead of a new one? Well, yeah, because basically Ford nailed this. This is as good as super minis get, economy cars. And there wasn't anywhere to go with the new one. They just kind of did the same thing again. So it's as good as a new one, but cheaper. And, I mean, well, that decision makes itself, surely. I guess if you want a warranty, buy a new one. And I'm not saying the new one's bad. The new one is just as good, but it's only just as good. And this is just as good, and will only cost you about $4,000 probably to buy one like this. So you do the math. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment down below if you've got anything to say about what I've said in the video. You can find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Drive Tribe. We've got a TikTok. We've got a Reddit probably, and we have a Patreon where you can give us money, or if you like to get things back for money, we've also got merch that you can buy, and then you'll have warm clothes to wear to keep the rain and the sun off your back, and we will have money, and then we will do fun things with that money for you to watch. It's a closed circle, sort of. So yes, Thank you for watching. Bye bye.